The main one they like to joke about and make fun of is something called Red 40.
We're going to talk about one of those mystery ingredients, red number 40.
Has an extreme sensitivity to red food dye.
How do you act when you have red dye?
Bad.
I had a doctor tell me once that he wonders just how many kids are on medications when in fact they're having a reaction to artificial food dye.
You may or may not have heard of something called Red 40. Now, I just found out what this is about 2 days ago, and I've wanted to make a video on it since because I've been so passionate about the topic. So, people lately have been talking a little bit about Red 40 because everybody is now finding out how unhealthy it is, how much it's put into our food, and how it's giving basically everybody the hallucination that they have ADHD or some kind of other mental illness. So if you don't know what Red 40 is, I'm going to give you a brief little synopsis. Symptoms of Red 40 is hyperactivity, migraines, impulsiveness, fidgeting, and brain buzzing. It's similar to ADHD. It lasts up to 1 to 2 days and is banned in most countries of Europe. It's not the only unhealthy dye, however, and this is why I wanted to make this video, because although a lot of people have heard of Red 40, they haven't been talking much about other dyes. Stuff like Blue 1, which has symptoms of irritability, moodiness, fatigue, and it basically just makes you feel drowsy and almost depressed. It lasts up to 24 hours, and I literally found it in my cough drops, which is weird because, like, that's supposed to make me feel better, but no, this whole time, these cough drops are making me feel worse. It's found in candy, of course, condiments, mouthwash, and medicines. And I just don't get why you would have to put something that makes you feel drowsy and depressed into medicine. Then you have another one that's called Green 3, which is probably what I do the most. It has symptoms of mania, hyperactivity, and euphoria. It's similar to having symptoms of bipolar disorder, and it gives you intense, like, excitement feeling, which is probably why, like, Green 3 and Red 40 are put into stuff like candy, so then people can get a hyperactive sense of emotion, and they'll think, oh my god, the candy is why I feel this way. They'll want the candy more, and then Blue 1, the drowsiness, is basically put in there to then give them almost a relapse and make them think, okay, I need to eat more of this candy in order to feel good again, and then it just goes on a repeat. But although these are really bad, it gives you almost like it gives you mental disorder symptoms, and it's a lot of the reason why so many people claim to have a mental disorder that they end up not. There's one that's even worse, which is the biggest reason I wanted to make this video, because barely anybody is talking about it. And that food coloring dye is Yellow 5 and 6. This one, in my opinion, is the worst one, and it's barely being talked about. Now, the symptoms, Yellow 5 and 6, in my opinion, has the worst symptoms. It gives you symptoms of anxiety, aggravation, aggression, defiance, violent outbursts, and suicidal thoughts. It's similar to a defiance disorder and anger issues, and lasts up to 5 days. Every other food dye symptom only lasts 1 to 2 days, 12 hours, 24 hours, but yellow food dye lasts up to 5 days. I came up to many of my friends and gave them the symptoms of each food coloring dye, and out of all of them, most of them resonated with the feelings they got from yellow food dye. So this is basically giving people anger issues, making people angry, and I personally didn't think I had really much of a problem, because most of the time, at least when I'm at school or around friends, I'm really happy. That's why I do have big symptoms of Green 3, because I always feel like really hyper and just bouncing all over the place. But then I realized as soon as I get home, I get like a weird, overwhelming anger for some reason. I never had any idea why, but it was like as soon as I just went home, even though I'm supposed to be happy at home because I can just like lay on my bed and go to sleep, I would always feel mad. I would get angry easily. I wouldn't want to talk to anybody in my family. And I always wondered why, and it's probably the yellow food dye. Like, nobody is talking about what the yellow food dye does. Everybody's talking about red 40 and everything, but the yellow literally is almost like those blue flowers from Zootopia. You know what I'm talking about. It makes people go savage. It has the longest side effects, and it's just terrible. So, I don't know. So, the conclusion of this video, most of these food coloring dyes are banned in most of Europe. It's banned in like a lot of parts of the world. But of course, it just runs free and wild in America, as per usual with unhealthy stuff. America just so happens to be one of the only places with healthcare that isn't free. Alongside that, it just so happens to be one of the most unhealthy countries. We literally have candy and snacks stacked with red food dyes, and even like I said, my cough drops have it. So even our medicine has red food dye and yet like red 40 and blue 1 and all this stuff stocked into it when it's literally so bad for us and banned in some countries. I also wanted to interject that we even have candy in our drugstores. Like, even in our stores with medicine, there's even candy in there with a bunch of red 40. So my theory is America is like one of the most unhealthy countries, if not the most. I didn't do research on it, so I'm not going to say anything about that. I just feel like they're giving us a bunch of this red 40 and yellow 5 and 6, blue 1 and green 3 to make us think that we have mental disorders and to make us, or to heighten mental disorder, because I'm by no means trying to say that mental disorders do not exist, but I am saying if you have it, it's either making it worse, or if you don't have it, it's making you believe you do have it. So I just think like America is almost trying to pump us full of a bunch of red 40 and other coloring dye, whatever it does to us, in order to make the food look saturated and yummy, so we want to eat it. Even though it's so unhealthy for us, but they don't care, because then what do we do after we eat and we get sick? We go to healthcare. How we have the most expensive healthcare, we spend a bunch of money, and then they even put red 40 and all that stuff in our drug products, so it doesn't even help anything. It just makes everything worse. So I feel like all of this stuff, people keep asking, like, why hasn't America banned this yet? Why is it banned in Europe? But like, America still has it, and I honestly just think it's another American money tactic. But, yeah.